to the cloud. Okay, so I believe we are recording to the cloud now.
Yeah. So
Okay.
before you go in, now that you start your record, let me make sure it's on recording. That I apologize to Rosen that I missed the session last week. All right, and it's on recording. So go ahead.
All right. Watson, do you have anything to say about that before we start?
Another time.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Dave, Orson asked me to respond, you know. And I will just respond with a question. The question is, what are you going to do to make it up to Dr. Austin? We'll take that offline.
I like that. That's fine. We'll do that.
I see that there's another good-looking Dave on the call. What going on, Dr. Nanan? Well, he want to talk.
He's in and out. He's in and out. Okay.
And Roger De Pisa, who is the young fella using Radford's name there?
I have no idea. I have no idea at this point, you know.
Okay.
I missed this thing 1 week and so many changes.
I got my haircut today.
Ladies and gentlemen who are viewing the recording, thank you for joining us tonight. Roger De Pisa is going to do a presentation on Calypso. And I think that the years that he's going to focus on tonight are during your lifetime, at a critical period during the first 2 decades of your life. So you might be somebody who used to enjoy the Calypso on the streets as well. So Roger, thank you for doing this tonight. We're looking forward to it and expecting to go down memory lane.
Thank you, Dennison. First of all, let me apologize. You know, I'm taking in front because there are so many things that happened during those first 20 years of our lifetimes that I may have missed a few. Okay. But I trust that you all will bear with me. And if there is anything that you find, you know, slightly incorrect or whatever, you know, feel free to jump in and let's chat about it. Okay, so I call this presentation Becoming a Nation in the Age of Social and Political Turbulence, which is exactly what 1960 to 1980 was in Trinidad. Now, the thing is, Trinidad is many aspects, as you guys know, the Trinidad, you know, there's the carnival, the fun, and the jump up and so on. But there are many other sides, and we will explore some of those other sides. And later on, you know, probably another presentation, we will get into the happy jump up stuff. Yes. All right. Good. So again, the objective of the presentation is to trace the development of the Calypso from the 60s to the 80s. And we will see how Calypso, how Kaiso mirrored, okay? It was a mirror to what was happening, you know, during that time, during those years, okay? Now, recall before, in the previous presentation, the many things that we covered from a historical aspect. We covered the Spanish cedula. We covered the influence of the French planters who came from Grenada and, you know, the French Antilles and so on. We spoke about Grosjean as the first Calypsonian, you know, on a plantation in Covine, in Diego Martin. Okay, we spoke about Cambule, you know, the breeding of the cane and how that contributed. And we also spoke about, you know, the abolition of slavery and emancipation and so on. Okay, so Trinidad, as you know, was Spanish until 1797, and then of course Abercrombie overthrew Picton and the people, and thereafter it became British. Okay, and it stayed British until 1962, as we know. Okay. Now, prior to 1962, all right, if we were to look at governance, the whole business of governance in the British West Indies, okay, we would observe a couple of things. Let me just move this down. Okay, all right. You know, we first well-established place, British place in the West Indies was Barbados. Okay, and as a consequence, the first settlement in the Eastern Caribbean was administered from Barbados under the governorship of the Leeward Islands. Okay, the Leeward Islands include places like Antigua and Montserrat and Anguilla, Nevis, and so on. Those islands here. Okay. Now later on in 1671, all right, the Leeward Islands sort of broke off from Barbados in terms of its own governance. Okay. And that became the seat of the Windward Islands, which we're really talking now about Dominica and Grenada and all of these, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and all of these different places. Okay, so you had many combinations and permutations of governance of the British West Indies from those times, right? A couple of things too. Generally, all of the proposals, all the initiatives that on came straight out of London, you see. And although there were legislatures in these different territories, they were not, elected. They were nominated by people. So there was no free elections really. Okay. There was no people's participation, right? All of these things were dictated out of London. All right. And, coming up, and there's a very interesting story about the West Indies contribution to the war effort, World War I and World War II. Okay, in World War I, basically, the West Indies chambers in different islands, they pretty much begged London to send troops. And when they were sent, okay, they were assigned to menial tasks like carrying weapons, cleaning toilets, etc., etc. Okay, Norman Manley said that the captured German soldiers were in fact treated better than the West Indian soldiers, right? But anyways, this whole drive for coming together to federation came mostly from West Indian politicians after the First World War, right? And their motives was really, like I said, participatory democracy, okay, self-government, all right? Now, the people really behind that, the initial people behind that were Cipriani in Trinidad and Mary Shaw in Grenada, okay? Cipriani said basically that he was moved during the World War, he was moved by a deep admiration for the barefoot man, okay? Right? He revived things like the Trinidad Workmen's Association, okay? And that attracted a whole heap of people, right? He's focusing on things like trade union representation, land settlement, education reform and that kind of stuff. Mary Shaw, on the other hand, Mary Shaw, who had similar objectives to Cipriani, out of Grenada, he was a journalist, okay? Right? He was very eloquent, he wrote lots of speeches and stuff, good writer, and he is generally referred to as the father of West Indian Federation, Mary Shaw, okay? Now, so, fast forward to 1956, when the British basically established the Federation through an act called the British Caribbean Federation Act. And in so doing, the Federation came into being in 1958, okay, on April the 22nd. And it included these, I think, 10 countries, all right, Anguilla, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and so on. And the aim really, as stated here, was to establish, political union. Now, between Marichaud's time and Cipriani's time, there were a whole heap of conventions, meetings, reports. There was the Wood Report in 1922, the Sugar Commission, which was in 1924, the Roseau Conference, I think, in 1932, and most importantly, there was the rise of the labor movement, okay, in the 1930s, people like Uriah Butler and all of these various people, okay? And why I'm telling you that all of this is a preamble to what happened, in the 60s and so on, okay? So the Federation was constituted. These are the first set of prime ministers of the Federation, okay? You had a House comprising of 45 members, a Senate of 19 members, okay? And the members were elected from the territories. You had a Prime Minister of the Federation, in this case, Grantley Adams out of Barbados. You had a cabinet, you had a Governor General, actually, of the Federation. So the same Governor General, you all know Lady Hales? You all have heard of Lady Hales Road around the Savannah? Okay, they were not nice people, okay? But nonetheless, Lord Hales was supposed to be governor of this federation. And you had a capital city, and in this case, the capital was supposed to be located in Trinidad, okay? Specifically in Chaguaramas, okay? What kind of good things in federation did you know? Okay, things like, taxation, direct taxation, planning for central development, a regional customs union across the board, a civil service, a federal civil service. And these last three I like. They established a shipping service, They had two ships that were donated, by Canada, big up Canada, They started negotiations for an airline, okay, to take over BOAC, all right, replace it with BWI, and they also started UE. You guys remember this building in the back there? Yeah. UE campus in Augustine. All right, this was in 1959. Okay.
Roger.
Bradford.
The Federal Mayplant Federal Palm had a 10-day journey from Jamaica to Trinidad.
Okay.
And you took in every island.
Okay.
Each island. And then you spent 3 days in Trinidad and it went back to Jamaica. I took that in 1965, leaving UE to come to Trinidad on vacation. Okay.
There we go. Live from the horse's mouth, people. All right. Okay. All right, so these are some of the things that the Federation were into, okay, or was into. All right, so the people there were into. Problems. Okay, they had problems. Right? All kind of problems, governance problems, disagreements about taxation and so on and so forth. The biggest problem they had though, right? The biggest problem they had was where the capital city was, right? In Chaguaramas. Okay, now, I remember around this time too, you had this thing happening in Cuba. I don't know how much of it is relevant to this, but I suspect that it did play some part, okay? Because the US government had an issue with all the little countries forming a federation outside its borders, on its doorstep, okay? And so they started to play the politics, okay? Right, so what happened was that in 1962, all right, it was basically agreed that, okay, Chaguaramas would be the capital, okay? the US forcefully objected, okay? And they influenced Barbados big time, okay? In fact, what happened was that they pressured the UK, which in turn pressured Barbados. And the Barbados Prime Minister at the time, Granville Adams, blocked the move for having Chaguaramas as the capital. Okay? This is after they agreed, among themselves, after the prime ministers of the Federation agreed that Chaguaramas is going to be the capital city. All right? Now, Norman Manley in Jamaica and Eric Williams to some extent, but Norman Manley, he was kind of affronted by this whole situation and therefore called a referendum within Jamaica as to whether or not they should remain in this thing called the Federation. All right? 54% of the people of Jamaica said no. Okay? And as a consequence, Jamaica pulled out of the Federation. Upon which Eric Williams said, well, 1 from 10 of us leaves not. You see, 1 from 10 equal to 0, right? And he pulled out also, and the Federation collapsed in 1962, okay? Now, Sparrow, coming back to the conversation, Sparrow, of course, like everybody else, he was observing what was going on, and he wrote this Calypso in 1962 about what was going on. Listen to it. Can you guys hear?
People want to know why Jamaica run from the Federation. Well, they want to know why Jamaica run away from the Federation. Jamaica have a right to speak your mind. That is my opinion. And if you believe in democracy, you'll agree with me. But if they know they didn't want federation, and they know they don't want to unite as one, independence was at the door. Why didn't they speak before? This is no time to say you are federating no more.
Yeah. So interestingly, Sparrow makes the point that independence was at the door. Yeah. So this stuff was happening in the early part of 1962. Okay. Right. Federation. None of these islands were independent countries. Okay. Right. Which is interesting. Okay, because remember the impetus of Marichaud and Cipriani and all of these people were for self-governance. And they felt that the federation was the mechanism so to do, right? So interestingly, after World War II, the British colonial office really couldn't give a damn really. You all want self-government, there's no big deal, self-governance or federation, okay? And so, as the Federation collapsed, okay, everybody sought independence. So Jamaica became independent on August 6th, 1962, right? Trinidad went next, okay, on August 31, 1962. And of course, Barbados went after, okay, on November 30th, 1966. You see, so the federation thing didn't work out, yeah. So everybody then went to self-governance. So yeah, we became independent. We became a nation, okay, in 1962 August 31, okay, and as the Guardian said, Trinidad now is a nation. right, with our own flag and our own coat of arms and so on. Okay, the British flag came down, as you see here. Eric Williams was the Prime Minister. And of course, the Calypsonians were right there to record the event, okay? And I will play a little bit of Brian's Calypso for you, okay?
31st of August, the year 1962, will go down in history for every one of you. Forget racialism and nationalism. Let discipline, production, and tolerance guide us to independence, because this is your land, just as well as my land. This is your place, and also it's my place. Till we put our heads together and live like one happy family. Democratically, educationally, we live independently.
Yeah, so, you know, the time itself was, you know, a lot of stuff was happening, okay? A lot of stuff concerning the people themselves, you know, was happening at that time. And what happened as Trinidad became a newly independent country, or newly independent nation, clearly there was a lot of national pride, you know, involved in that stuff. There was a nation to build, yeah? Okay, and of course, Calypso and Calypsonians were a vital part of that whole situation. You see? We all know about Sniper. Yes? Yeah, was it Dos Santos who had asked me? But one of you guys had asked me about Sniper, you know, and the portrait of Trinidad, which still stands up today as one of the most patriotic Calypso songs. Yeah? He did this in 1965. Okay, and here we go. Let's take a little listen. I don't know if you guys want me to play the whole thing. I will. If not, we can stop it and proceed. But here it goes.
Trinidad is my land, and of it I am proud and glad. But I can't understand why some people just talk it bad. But I know all of them we running them out. Don't know where they're talking about. They will paint you black every day, and the right things they will never say. Like our sportsmen being rated among the best. Our scholars have sit and passed every test and put us right alongside the rest. But then our pitch lake is the greatest one of its kind. Our sugar and oil is really refined. So you see, friends, this is a real thing Solomon's mind. They just talk some nonsense. Me ain't know where they're doing it for. About so much violence, man, you would swear that we fighting war. Of course, we have we delinquents to face. But just like any other place, look, the things that I say about here is really too much for me to bear. Because my people are daily making progress without any form of stupidness. And in this way we must gain success. For when we move in, we all move as one body. No bickering between you and me. For our policy stands for racial equality. Now when a stranger spending a little time in this lovely isle, every day you see him, he always have a hearty smile. When his time is up to depart, he would say with pride in heart, I'll be back, you could bet your life. And if I can't come, I'll go send my wife. And then he'll tell you, he really wants her to come, to drink some rum and have plenty fun in this great island in the sun. For Trinidadian, as foreigners to recall, it doesn't matter whether big or small, or if you're rich or poor, friends, we cater for one and all. So all of them we're talking, they either drunk or they're steering mad. Or maybe they forgetting Mr. Universe belongs to Trinidad. And yet we have men of talent and skill, with high hopes of improving still. And if you think all this is a lie, the mighty Sniper won't tell you why. Now our steel bands is the best talent in this world. Like Calypso, our stories are told, which is written to touch your soul. So Trinidad, this lovely land of my book, small but overwhelming in wood. And as you know, Carnival is the greatest polygon.
Yeah, so all of this is part of all of us. Yeah. You know, this is part of us. Yeah. So like I said, you know, I recall growing up, you know, every independence, you know, you put up flags and all of this stuff across the house, you know, right? And you don't see that now, but certainly in the 60s and so on, you know, people had a sense that, you know, we're moving forward. And one way people thought about moving forward was through education. Yeah, education. I don't know if some of you guys remember the school. Yes, Peter. This is San Fernando Boys RC, the old school, before the new one. This is
That's too old for me. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you started 5 years after I did, which I don't think so. You know, you would have started in the school as well. Yes. But William,
when I came, it was a new school. I never went in that old board up thing there.
Oh, okay. You came in standard 3 or something, you know.
Yeah. I came actually in standard 4.
Oh, okay. No, well, I you know, those two years before first year, I don't know what they call them, first primer or second primer.
First year and second year, boy.
right.
ABC, boy, ABC. It was in ABC.
No, but I recall we used to get milk and biscuit on the side of this building, between the building and the church, you know, every 10 o'clock every morning. But anyways, William had made the statement that the future of our nation is in our children's school bag. You know, right? And as per usual, you know, Calypsonians had a lot to say about that as well. Yes, you know, Sparrow was rather scathing, okay, about the quality of the education system. Okay, in his song about education, because we use this book in first year, second year, third year, and so on. The West Indian Reader from Cottridge. I don't know if you guys, you know, Dave, you use this book as well in primary school. Right?
Yes, Roger, yes.
Right? You know, but according to Sparrow, right? You know, if my head, there you have it. Dennis proudly shows it. Okay, he said, if my head was bright, I would have been a damn fool. But anyways, let's listen to a verse from his Calypso. Okay, and you guys know it. Yeah.
I said Cottridge was plenty times more advanced than them scientists. I am believed that no one man could write so much stupidness. Aeroplanes didn't come so soon. Scientists used to make the grading balloon. Cottridge make a cow jump over the moon. And then he tell them, Tom, the piper's son, thief a pig and away he ran. Once there was a woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. Dickory, duck. The mouse ran up the clock. The lion and the mouse, a woman pushing a cow to eat grass on top of a house. Mama Dan is the man.
Yes. So as you said, you know, a cow jumping over the moon, a woman living in a house, in a shoe, sorry, you know what I'm saying? If he was bright, he would have become a damn fool, you know. Yeah, so this is what it is. But nonetheless, you know, education was still at the forefront of everybody's mind, you know. And in fact, indeed, some of the policies that Williams and they, instituted in the later 60s and 70s is free education, free tertiary education. It's probably what have a lot of us here today. Because I remember when I went to UE after presentation, what did it cost? $120 PT a year for caution money or something like that. Everything else was free. All right. So anyways, so we're moving into the 60s. Okay, this Calypso was in 63. All right, but in the mid to late 60s, all right, what we had happening was the civil rights movement in the US. Okay, and Trinidad was isolated from that. I recall when we lived in Hermitage, we didn't have television around that time. But I recall seeing Martin Luther King, this speech here, somebody came with a projector and projected this thing on the side of the neighbor's house. And we all gathered, in her yard and stuff to watch what was going on in the US. Okay. Now, we had our own people in the mix, Stokely Carmichael as well, also known as Kwame Ture, the big social civil rights activist in the US and after. Okay. Now the thing is that recall too that Trinidad at that time was still a very racialized society, even long after independence. Okay. And even though Williams had said Master Day done, okay, white folks and French Creoles still occupy the heights of the society. They were still the privileged people, right? If you're Afro or Indo, your place was in the back, basically. Okay? And indeed, Kitchener makes reference to that, okay? Which he wrote the song in 1967, okay? I don't know if you guys know it, but here it goes. Whoops.
It's a shame, it's unfair, but what can you do? The color of your skin makes it hard for you. You can tour the world, you still will get no place. Every door is shut in your face. So boys, if you brown, they say you can stick around. If you white, well, everything's alright. But if your skin is dark, no use you try. You got to suffer until you die.
So this song, If You Are Brown, was penned by Lord Kitchener in 1967. Okay, and he had other calypsos, 67 is the season, and also this was another one on this album here. Okay, very important. So this was the social climate. A lot of people were a bit agitated and so on, but because of the situation of inequality still remaining in the society after independence. Okay, so in 68 and 69, okay, what you had happening was a heightened level of Black consciousness, right? People were wearing dashikis, as you see here, right? Afro, right? Peter's still trying to wear his afro. I don't understand what years after, 50 years after. Anyway, yeah, but it was basically a rejection of those colonial values, right? So this newfound pride, again, is reflected in calypsos of that time, all right? And, Duke has a beautiful calypso, Austin. I don't know if you know this one. Okay, he sang this in 1969. Okay, listen.
Many, many, many years it took Now we found the natural look. Many, many, many years it took us to get this natural look. Suddenly out of the blue, this thing has shot like something new. Everybody young and all going afro and telling the world, if you hear them, black is beautiful. Look at the glass. Black is beautiful. It's the texture, of course. Lift your head like me. Don't have to wear me collar with dignity. How it go now? Black is beautiful. I said, oh, sing it out loud. Black is beautiful. So I'm black and proud. It's high time that we get rid of that old slave mentality.
Yeah, so this was Duke in 1969. Okay. So a lot of stuff was happening. Okay, in and around 1969 as well. Okay, you know, the Indo-Trinidadians were not to be left behind either, right? Because, you know, they were moving, you know, with their own musical revolution. Okay, chutney music, which I didn't know, and Dave and others could correct me if I'm wrong. You know, really started a long time. Only the movement towards something called chutney music as an Indo-Caribbean expression really started all the way back in the 40s in Suriname and in Guyana. Okay, and a woman by the name of Drupati or Jopati, okay, because we know Drupati Ramgunai with D-R-U, I think this person called D-R-O, okay, different spelling, comes out of Suriname, right? But really, the thing exploded when Sundar, yeah, Popo, okay, came out in 1969, and I didn't realize it was so long ago with Manani and Manana, okay, right? And of course, he would just, you know, blow up after that. So just to hear a little bit of Sundar, okay.
नाना नानी घर से निकले धीरे धीरे चलती गई मथुरा के दुकान में दोनों जाके बैठे गए नाना चले आगे आगे नानी गुंदी है नाना drinking white wine नानी drinking wine नाना चले आगे आगे नानी गुंदी है नाना drinking white wine नानी drinking wine Nana riding bicycle, Anani ringing bell. Nana riding bicycle, Anani ringing bell. Nani lock the handle, they fall inside a well. Me Nana so careless, he don't keep Nani drown. As he jump in the bank, he hold on to white one. Nana chale aage aage, Nani going behind. Nana drinking white one, Nani drinking wine.
Okay, so this was 1969, okay? And of course, you know, the whole chutney music scene was just to explode after that. So much so that I think it was in 1985, I think it was, that Stalin had done a tribute to Sundar Popo, yes? And I think that song took him straight to the Calypso monarch. For that year. Okay. All right. Yes.
So can you speak a little bit about what was happening in the rest of the Caribbean as it relates to Calypso and chutney at that time? Well, I mean, was it strictly a Trinidad phenomenon, or had it expanded to some of the other islands?
No, well, coming out of Suriname and Guyana and Trinidad, I would think that, you know, subsequent to Sundar Popo, you had people like Drupati Ramgunai coming out really as the first woman in Trinidad, you know, to really make it big, singing, mixing the Indian rhythms with the Calypso, right?
Yeah, DP,
Mhm.
let me add, Orson, if you will remember when we were in high school, there were some top calypsos coming out of the Eastern Caribbean too, by people like Arrow and Short Shirt. You remember Tourist Lego?
Yeah.
Right, those
Yeah.
are big hits, right? So
Yeah,
but that-
so there was calypso in the other Caribbean islands too.
Yeah, but specifically chutney, not 100%, sure what's going on. Maybe someone else, Dave, could speak to that.
Yeah, let me comment on that. At the time that the Indo songs were going on, primarily, as you say, from Suriname, with they used to call her Sister Drupati, not the Drupati Ranganai, but at that time the music was never referred to as chutney. Chutney is a name that evolved later on when it started to be more integrated into the calypso,
And
it
Dave,
had
hold
a
on.
lot more the
Hold on.
fetting aspect of it.
And well, after we had doubles, right?
Well, yeah. But the Drupati, they used to call her Sister Drupati. I remember that my grandfather buying that record for his radiogram. And that whole Christmas time, they were just playing those songs. And in those days, we used to know it as Matikoro music. Like, the kind of music you just have when they have an Indian wedding and Friday night and they're singing. And I remember specifically one of her songs, Gaure Puje, Gaure Puje. And it was best people used to just have a good time. But coming back to your question, was to the best of my knowledge, the only part of the Caribbean region that had a high impact or a high influence of Indo music was Suriname, Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago. I can't really say for sure that a lot of other Indo-Caribbean music came out from the other islands until, of course, the chutney evolved a little later on.
Yes.
So Suriname has a large
Indo
population. Okay.
Govin could probably comment on that with some of the people that he met, and he was surprised, besides the ethnicity, how they were speaking fluent Hindi. Hey, Govin?
Yeah, actually in Suriname, they have 7 different races and they speak 7 different languages. And up to now, it's very common for people to speak Hindi in Suriname. As a matter of fact, when they see you first, when they see me, they speak Hindi and I doesn't have a clue.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. But actually, it is interesting too that when you all travel back to the Caribbean to visit some of these places, Suriname and Guyana especially, to see how politics and culture and all these things help in develop a country and also how keep the country underdeveloped also. There's some living museums to see.
Yeah, quick question, Govind. Are they still speaking 7 separate languages because people weren't allowed to mix over the centuries?
No, they also teach the 7 different languages in school. So everyone you meet speaks all the languages.
Okay, so it's a multilingual situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one comment before you move on, Roger. Jamaica, on the other hand, even though it was an evolution was still taking place there. They were going from ska to rocksteady to reggae. Yeah, at that time. So I'll bring that in there. Yeah. Also, but they were also discovering the Caribbean through Byron Lee and others.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense to me because I was like, Byron Lee and the Dragonaires every carnival time would come to Trinidad. And I was like, I thought they're from Jamaica. It never made sense to me.
Well, he was a musician who liked Trini music. But one of these days, go ahead, Radford.
It would make sense in the fact that Huey in 64 to 67, we started a carnival. We had a carnival every year, and we paraded the streets in Kingston, and that moved around the campus and so on. And that suddenly developed into what you have today. So there was that connection throughout.
Yeah. And
Can I make a
Byron
comment,
Lee
gentlemen?
was instrumental in developing, taking the carnival to
Yes.
Jamaica. Dennison, you had a
Yeah.
comment?
Let Nanan go first and then I'll go.
Oh, okay, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, so having lived in Jamaica as long as I had, it was interesting. Byron Lee was a businessman, okay? A very good businessman. And he realized that there was a sector of the community in Jamaica who liked Calypso music and who liked Trinidadian music. And he developed it. And I went to a lot of Byron Lee parties in Jamaica. And there was a following there. This man, you couldn't stop him, okay? Now, there is a tradition of Calypso in Jamaica too, you know, that goes back to the 60s. Roger would probably be better place to talk about that. But still to this day, Jamaicans have this form of Calypso that they perform in the resorts, you know, like in the North Coast, and they portray it as Calypso, so that a lot of North Americans and Europeans think that that is Calypso.
Thank you, Dave. And so
Michael, before you go, Michael had his hand up.
Yeah.
No,
I was
me first now.
from 70 to 73. same classes with Keith Rowley, actually. And well, I was in the steel band too, right? We went all over Jamaica playing steel band and promoting it, and people really enjoyed it, but many of them hardly knew anything about steel band at all. But the amusing thing, when I came back to Trinidad, when I was teaching at Prez and had my RX2, I used to force all my friends to listen to reggae. Because it was not popular at all. And I forced all my friends. Up to now, a lot of them give me jokes. I forced them to listen to reggae. And some of the reggae singers came down and had a concert at that place at the corner of Pointe-a-Pierre Road. It's slipped out of my mind now.
Palms Club.
No. The one on the corner, there is something going for Thunderbird Terrace.
Yeah.
On the corner, on the very corner, right? And Trinidadians booed them that night. Jamaican artists who I loved, and I found myself there, Trinidadians booed them that night. They did not appreciate reggae at all. And all the 3-4 years I had everybody listening to reggae in my car. But of course, now that reggae has taken up in Trinidad, I am not on reggae anymore.
No, because certainly that is not going to happen today, you know. Right?
Okay, so Roger, let me just ask the group, is there anybody who has looked at the history of reggae and knows that it was invented in Trinidad? And could we dedicate one of our sessions to talking about that?
Denison, it's funny you say that. Bob Marley was quoted as saying he liked Calypso, but he couldn't sing it. You can look that up. He said he just couldn't sing it. And that's how he moved on to something else.
Okay.
Anyhow, Dennison, I haven't done any research in that regard, so you know you're on your own with that one. Right?
Yeah. Well, I am throwing that out to my pal Peter Holder. He knows
there is a guitarist from Trinidad who was instrumental in forming the modern reggae that we know today. So,
okay.
One other quick point. I'll just relate one little story about steel band. So the Indian music influence came to steel band actually quite early. As a matter of fact, in talking to Ray Holman, he was an arranger for Invaders in the time when Eddie Manette still was a part of Invaders. And Ray, if you know, St. James has a significant Indian population. So Ray had that influence of that music. So he brought that music as part of the arrangement to Invaders. And because of the racial climate at the time, the band didn't want to play the music. And that's what led Ray to leave Invaders and form Starlift. So,
okay.
Nice. Well, Peter, it is nice to hear that you done start your research for your presentation, man. Yeah. And so now, when it comes to the Indian influence, I want to know a little bit more about the role that Guinness Cavaliers played.
Yeah,
And then later on, my father-in-law was the captain of a band in Faizabad called the Hurricanes. And his cousin, Bobby Muhammad, became a famous arranger.
Oh, okay.
He used to arrange for them. So Bobby Muhammad and my father-in-law are first cousins.
Okay.
Who is that again? Guinness who?
Guinness Cavaliers.
Guinness Cavaliers, boy. Not Cavaliers, Guinness Cavaliers.
So that's where he went with this question. Okay. All right. Where he was great. So let me push on a little bit. Okay. So this was like 1969 and so on. And we all know what happened next, right? You know, what happened next was 1970. Okay. And 1970 was a year of turmoil. It was a year of discontent, a year of upheaval. Okay. You had several things happening. You had the Black Power revolt, really. Okay. And, you know, curiously, you know, it started actually with a carnival band, a Juve band crossing the Savannah stage. You know, it's like, you know, it made some reference to Africa, like, you know, African Pride or Back to Africa or something was the name of the band. Okay. That came out of, I think, Belmont. All right. And so the thing escalated from there. Okay. We also had the 1970 mutiny, you guys would recall. Okay, between that was led by Shah and Nassar. Okay. Collectively, I believe they were sentenced to something like 64 years in prison. Okay, which they subsequently, you know, they subsequently beat the conviction on appeal. Okay, but in any case, coming out, you know, of the state of emergency, coming out of the mutiny, there was a state of emergency. Okay, and during that state of emergency, Williams had arrested all the leaders of the trade union movement of NJAC, you know, and so on. Okay. And subsequent to the state of emergency, that there was a curfew that went on for 8 months. You know, some of the people who were arrested throughout the whole curfew. Okay. Some others, you know, were released after 2 months and so on. Okay. Yeah. So
DP, you forget one of the most important things for this group that happened in 1970, man. You can't go on
the
without
presentation.
mentioning that. Everybody went in the Standard 5.
And subsequently presentation college, you know. Okay, good. So the turmoil didn't stop there really, because as you would recall, okay, in 1973, we had enough guerrillas. Okay, so these were generally young people who were discontent with the resolution of the Black Power struggles in the 1970s. Okay, and they fought basically a guerrilla campaign out of the Northern Range, okay, to overthrow the government of Williams. Okay, all right, it was led by Guy Harewood, you will recall. Okay, and the group, the Enough guerrillas, were generally young people, well-educated people. Okay, of course, Randolph Burroughs and the Flying Squad, you know, hunted these people down mercilessly and, you know, shot all of them. All right. Guy Harewood was killed in the Currap River. Okay, not too far from where the bus station is right now. Okay, the Maxi Taxi stand. He was only 23 years old. I was very surprised at his age. All right. Now, Kitchener, of course, you know, recorded all of this stuff. Okay, and you guys know Jericho, right? In which he recorded basically what happened, right? But he coined it in such a way that, you know, people don't know that he was referring to Guy Harewood actually as Jericho. Okay, so here we go. It's a little song.
I hear they're looking for me, so I come down from the jungle. They calling the whole country, are talking about them police people. I saving them the trouble of climbing mountains and tumbling down. Please do me a favor and tell them Jericho come to town. They're looking for Jericho. Jericho head day. They come up at Lopino. Jerry stayed far away. They come up to Las Bajo. Jericho head day. Then they run down to Monrepo. Jerry stayed far away. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Everybody want to know the Jericho from Lopino.
One interesting little tidbit. You guys know about Andy Thomas? Anybody ever heard of Andy Thomas? Big news in the 70s, okay? But Andy Thomas was one of these young guys, you know, as part of the North group, okay? He, along with several others, were accused of killing a cop, okay? He was in the back seat. He had nothing to do with nothing really, you know. He was just in the car. But the bottom line is that all of them were sentenced to death, okay, as an accomplice, okay, in 1975. He was read the death sentence several times, like about 10 times, okay. His lawyer was Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, okay, and among others, okay. And I remember, because it's something I followed intensely when doing presentation and elsewhere, that, you know, Lawrence Maharaj sat with this guy, you know, right? Like about minutes before 6 o'clock, before he was supposed to be taken to be executed at 6, okay? Would spend nights with these guys every single time. And at the very last minute, you know, there would be some commutation from England or something, you know, postponing it and so on, okay? Andy Thomas. This was when Lawrence Maharaj was a big time, you know, what do you call this, abolitionist for the death penalty. When he became Attorney General, he did a 180 degrees turn as a proponent for the death penalty, okay? Now, interestingly, coming back to Andy Thomas, after he was released in 1987, he hooked up with Abu Bakr, okay, and the Jamaat al-Muslimin, okay? And, you know, was involved with the coup. As a matter of fact, he was in the Red House with the other insurgents, you know, and was really the only person in the history of Trinidad who had possibly be facing 2 death penalties for 2 different things. You see what I'm saying? All right. Of course, you know what happened with the coup, and he died from a stroke or some illness shortly thereafter. Okay. Yeah. So this was in 1970. All right. All this stuff was happening 1970, 73. What was also happening at that time, of course, was poliomyelitis. Yes. You remember? Okay, and you know, at the end of 71, actually, there was, you know, an outbreak of polio. Polio, of course, was, what should I say? It happened several times before, okay, but this was a big one. Okay, it affected something like 261 children, primarily, and of course, you know, when, you know, it's very debilitating. This virus, okay? So it manifested itself firstly in Port of Spain, in Lavancil and in St. Anne, okay? But then it showed up in other parts of the country, in Arima, in Manzanilla, in San Fernando, okay? In Moruga, okay? Moruga had a big outbreak, all right? And the government, of course, did 2 things. With the assistance of the Pan American Health Organization, they launched an aggressive vaccination campaign. Okay, all this story now about vaccine and anti-vaxxers and so on, there was no such discussion. As a matter of fact, we didn't have social media in those days. All right. Secondly, Carnival was postponed from February 14th and 15th of 1972 to May. Apparently, this thing had a gestation of about three or four months. I don't know, doctors could correct me. But anyway, that's what happened. Okay, so Carnival was shifted from February to a lot of people were upset, of course, because it was really the first time in memory, okay, that Carnival was shifted or postponed. Okay, the last time was during the World War II, as you recall from the last presentation. Okay, but these are the figures here. I got this from a report from 1972. Okay, poliomyelitis in Trinidad, between 71 and 72. The end of 71. Yes, Rashford.
I'd like to make a personal comment.
Certainly.
I was told, and this may be news to you, Roger. I was told by our mother that I had a touch of polio as a little kid. I think I was less than 5 years old. Growing up in the early 40s.
In the early 40s. Okay.
And I had a nickname. They used to call me Hop and Drop because one of my legs was slightly shorter than the other one.
Okay. But that cleared up, I would imagine, because you don't walk with a hop today.
Yeah, I don't walk it. I learn to outgrow it, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool.
One other thing as it relates to polio, I remember in boys' school getting the polio vaccine. So, when I just reflected on the anti-vaxxers today, and that vaccine probably saved a lot of us from coming down with polio. Not probably, did, undoubtedly.
Yeah, but Orson, they made that vaccine taste nice. And
yeah, you're right. It was an oral vaccine.
It was an oral vaccine.
It was an oral vaccine. That's
correct.
Yeah.
And the people who were getting it were too small to
argue, to talk about freedom, eh? All right. So the mass was in May, okay, and of course, Trini, in the typical response to the vaccine and the situation, okay, men were upset. Yeah. Right? In May, of course, as Katrina said, people started turning beats on the streets. Yeah, right. Irwin McWilliams, okay, here was the band of the year playing Anansi the Spider, right? Anansi's story, okay, and Katrina Rama is this.
Well, they moan and they fuss and they say we want, we fet, and they abuse and they cuss and they say this is a threat. Yes, they damn and they blast and they say we hope it ain't true. They won't dare to cancel. We jump up 1972. Mama, when they hear, they go get the carnival. All masqueraders on heat. When they didn't care if it was official, but they start turning bees on the street. And they start to jump around, and they start to tumble down, and they fall down on the ground. If you see how they came. But what was so comical, in the midst of the canal, rain come and wash out Mass in May.
Yeah, I remember on the streets of San Fernando, people rolling around in the drain and all kinds of stuff with flood, and people carrying one. Like they turn beasts in the streets, that thing. Yeah. So anyways, so that was that in the 70s. But what we also had, a lot of stuff was happening still, okay. And you all would recall that after that we had the oil boom. Yes, OPEC went on, on strike or whatever. And, because we had the oil was flowing like water, the national treasury was flooded with revenue from oil. Okay, unemployment rate was cut in half. And Dave and Govin, you guys might be interested. The agricultural sector declined by 25%. Yes, why? Because men headed to the city. Yes.
We have never recovered from that culture.
Which is
It's
exactly
agricultural. Yeah. Some people
Yeah,
still disillusioned and think we live in that era. But go ahead.
Yes, it had an impact, you know, on where we are today. Yeah, and the thing about it is that, you know, borrow captain time. Yes, with this one. Yes, with this one.
Drink and drunk, yes, that's me and name. Always make me family shake. Like Marianne all day, all night. I staggering high like a kite. It's Christmas, every day is Christmas. I could drink me wrong, trust, till me belly fast. I love to be drunk and it's family. Always in custody, with friends and the family. All man fight up with me cause I'm drunk and disorderly. Every weekend I'm in the jail. Drunk and disorderly. Nobody to stand me there. Hey.
Yeah, so every day was Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes, because men had money. Men had money like water. You know what I'm saying? Right? In those years, right? But you know, what you also had was a whole heap of young people because, you know, at that time, you know, most of the population of Trinidad was under 20, right? You know, and so, you know, with the old style that we were exposed to from before, right? You know, people were looking for something new, right? And so you had men looking for something fresh, right? And people like Shorty came up with soul Calypso, right? Which they shortened to soca. They sped up the beats, yes, and they added some East Indian influences as well, yes. And we all know, yes, all of these people were from South actually, right? You know, which is interesting because, and also, you know why they call him Shorty?
No, why?
Because he was almost what 6'7" or something.
Very tall, very tall.
Very tall.
I don't know how many of you remember Shorty coming to perform in Presidential College for us.
I remember. And that time he had a song, a sexual innuendo kind of song.
Yeah. Well, Peter, this one is not it, but this is his big breakthrough song for soca. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the thing that sort of introduced soca to the rest of the world. Okay. And here we go.
La 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 life today, oh, all like yesterday. Friendship gone, leaving haters gone, yeah. Never living like strangers with neighbors. No love, sir, for one another. To unite people as one, I create a song, I hope it live on from generation to generation to generation. Sing om, shanti om, shanti shanti om. Purnamada, Purnamida, Purna, Purnamuda, Chanti. Om, shanti om, shanti shanti om. Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnamewa, Vashishyate. Om, shanti om, shanti shanti om. La 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 la.
see like you guys enjoying this.
Yeah, he was the most important Calypsonians. Obviously, David Rudder is my favorite, but he was the most important, one of the most important. And he was a visionary. And the thing about him is he used to hang out at Royal Castle. So he used to hang out at Royal Castle, and we actually used to go to Royal Castle just to see if Shorty was there. And he would be there, writing his music while he's at Royal Castle. So we never had the courage to go up and introduce ourselves or anything. But we just used to be like, that's Shorty. So what is he saying in this chorus here? Anybody can translate for us?
I could comment on that. Om Shanti Om is peace be unto you, right? And that is Om Shanti Om. And that piece of Hindi that you're seeing there is an extract from a Hindu prayers when they're doing the puja, that we call the part of the puja where they just do around the fire and they just make the offering. So I don't know the exact pronunciation or meaning of it. So it's really an extract from Om Shanti Om, mean peace be unto you, right?
Yeah, that's
but it's interesting. I want to make a comment before I forget. Now that I'm listening to this song, Holder there, right? I'm sure Holder, you look at your Hindi movies too, as we discussed sometime. And again, because of this copyright issues that they never had to protect these Calypsonians, such as Sundar Popo and Raj Shorty I, these songs now, these choruses, and even as what's the one from Antigua? Hot, hot, hot.
Right? Yeah, from Montreal.
Those songs, you hear them now in these Bollywood and Hollywood movies, and well, not Hollywood, but Bollywood movies, etc. And these choruses are now being used freely. And that same one, Om Shanti, Om. If you look back at some more recent Hindi movies, you're seeing it used, and the chorus is back there, and Hot, hot, hot is there, and Sundar Popo, Kanchan, and Bhagna took all the Calypso songs.
I think Hot, hot, hot was copyrighted because Aro turned out to be one of the wealthiest people in Montreal, actually.
I don't know. Yeah, you see
he did before he passed. Anyway,
coming to this Calypso by Shorty, I'm not sure if you'll remember, when he brought it out, there was a big backlash from the Mahasabha.
There was.
And Shorty came out. I mean, you have to give Jack his jacket. Shorty had a lot of insight into what was going on, and I think he was genuine in what he said.
Mm-hmm.
This was not a calypso or soca to drink and wine or whatever it is. And as far as he was concerned, he was trying to get across a message, and he asked the people, don't play it on the street when you're drinking and you're drunk and whatever it is, respect what is said in the soca. Yeah. And after that, things quietened down, and it still remains one of my favorites.
It's a very reflective piece, right? But, and this was reflected in his later song, Come On, My Children, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But the bottom line, Dennis, is that this is us. You know what I'm saying? Right? This is me. This is us. But in any case, moving on, right? Other young people, other young Calypsonians took up, Shorty's challenge, okay, and started to create things. Yeah, Maestro was out there, on the soca train early, all right? And you guys would remember this one. This one was almost very prophetic. Let's have a listen.
A car crash, a hash lash, everybody say man done. A news flash, severe smash, one more Calypsonian gone. Scientists from a foreign country sat and planned to turn me into a bionic man. The doctor asked my mother what she crying for. They're bringing me back better than before. Better than before.
Yeah, so Peter might be interested in his folder, you would notice that the instrumentation is different from the stuff that happened before. The cadence of the music and so on is very different from what had happened, particularly in this song. Okay. Merchant as well was out there with stuff like this.
Traveling in a taxi yesterday evening.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I start to dig something.
Yeah.
With the female passengers especially. When they want the driver to stop the things they say. Does amaze me. Driver, I will take it here. Driver, give me.
Yeah. And the explainer, okay, was also experimenting. Okay, because prior to songs like this, I hardly heard, reggae being mixed with the calypso. All right, for example.
The way the world is going on, all who up start to fall back down. This might sound like fallacy. 79 proved this to me. I'm sure you remember the fall of many world leaders, rulers of oppression, overthrown by the oppressed man. The table turning, sir, round and round. All them oppressors falling down. The table turning, sir, round and round. Now
So these fellas were out there experimenting with all kinds of different things. You see what I'm saying? And the music was changing.
These three were three of my favorites, Maestro especially.
Yeah.
Maestro had a fiery and he used to make excellent calypso. He could never win the calypso company. He always come in last.
Yeah, and what people don't realize that Merchant was one of the most prolific writers of music in that time until he died. Yeah. It was really, but the young people were out there. And something else was happening in Trinidad at the time, because we had people like, Jenny Pakira and Robin Imancha and all of these fellas out there making music in a different style. Okay, that wasn't new before, right?
One more thing, I don't know how many of you remember that when Maestro sang that song, it was like if it was a premonition that he was going to die in a car crash.
It was almost prophetic because he died in a car crash.
Car crash
too long
just after that, and they was looking back on reflection. It was like if he predicted his car crash.
His own death,
I hear man.
Yeah. Okay, now you all may or may not remember this. Okay, but then came bloody murder. Murder in the place. Yeah.
Rima boy.
And this sort of consumed the consciousness of Trinidadians and people across the Caribbean for a couple of years as well. Right? Abdul Malik. Remember him?
Yeah.
This guy here. Right?
What's the name of the place? Something Gardens?
Christina Gardens in Arima. Yeah. And now it is, I don't know why it is he chose to kill these two people, Joseph Scarrett and this girl. She was 23 or 24 years old at the time, Gaylan Benson. Okay, but basically, they were chopped on the neck and so on and buried alive. Right? This guy who claimed that he was a leader in the Black movement, particularly in London and so on. Here he is with Yoko Ono and what's this guy's name again? John Lennon.
John Lennon.
Yeah. Turned out to be nothing more than a common hoodlum. Yes.
He was, yeah.
A murderer. Yeah.
You want to stop the recording for a couple minutes?
Okay, 1 second. Let me just pause the recording here. So Kitchener, of course, he documented all of this stuff that was happening in his Calypso. Okay.
Trouble in the back of Arima, so the paper say. Fortes is involved in a murder just the other day. One fella view the situation like thing getting brown. He decide to throw in the sponge and turn witness for the crown.
Mama sa, they say you do Congo sa. Mama sa, they say you do Congo sa.
You swear on oath to talk the truth. You cut the truth. You talk, and they believe you.
Mama sa, they say you do Congo sa.
Oh!
Mama sa, they deem you the ringleader.
When the judge accept the verdict and let the hammer bang, 3 say,
1 to harm.
Yeah, so, you know, Palmer, of course, turned state witness as one of the 4 people who were involved in this. And he got off, and the rest, well, you know.
I don't remember this. I don't remember this story. So
you don't remember this story?
No. So how did this end?
He was executed. He was hung.
Okay.
And Stanley Abbott as well.
I remember. So this is I was just gonna ask you, is this related to Stanley Abbott? Because that's the Calypso I thought you were gonna play.
No, this is the same
Stanley Abbott.
I love some details. You're leaving out some details.
Maybe I am.
Somebody drowned up at Toko Yates was his name, and they thought that might have been related.
Yeah. I recall that vaguely.
Right, and then when they were looking for Malik escaped and went to Guyana.
Yes.
He went up a river, and his hair was cut by the husband of a PNMite.
But I don't know about that. I remember his hair being shaved, his hair, and it changed his look and whatever.
Yeah.
He was fought nonetheless by the guy.
Very powerful, connected person. Yeah.
Okay, we might have to stop the recording again, but
we're moving on. We're moving on. Anyway, so this was like around 74 to 76. Charles Hudson Phillips prosecuted this case. You know, I think he was Attorney General at the time. I think in the history of Trinidad, no Attorney General has prosecuted any case, right? But he did that. Anyways, so you all will remember this. Our achievements in the late 70s. Yes, you know. Remember the netball queens, the soca, the Calypso girls. Yes, Jean Pay and others.
Jean Pay.
Yeah, afterwards the part of the stadium, the Jean Pay complex, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Okay, Penny and her thing in 97, and of course Coffee, right? This guy sang about Crawford, you know.
The Olympiad, who thought a man from Trinidad could run the 100 meters and capture great honors? The expert never had him to win. The bar talking from the beginning. They all remained with their mouth open. They couldn't believe we're ready up. Then they say they never see that yet. Start to finish, moving like a jet. Lane one, champion, Montreal, gold medal, gold. The past is human in the whole wide world. Gold. Man breathe. The past is human in the whole wide world. It was 12 o'clock, the hour, and 19 July.
Remember this one?
When a TTT announcer brought tears to my eyes. He said, would you keep calm while I interrupt this program? You ought to know it first. Our Penny is the queen of the universe. Penny, lovely Penny.
Okay, so we're kind of running out of time here. But anyways, I got to push on. Yeah, so this was the late 70s, okay? The oil boom happening still. All of this achievement happening. All right, but also inflation was running wild, yeah? Inflation was running high, wild, okay? And this kind of set up what happens in the 80s, all right? And subsequently what happened with Abu Bakr and them in the 90s, okay? All right, we later, of course, had this one about food prices.
I said, well, partner, everything that you just said was true. Money today don't have no value. And if you argue, people going to say that you're funny and tell you how you can't eat the money. It's true you can't push the money down your throat, but people still not getting the money's worth. And the vendors and them so fierce, they just raise the price when something gets scarce. $4 a bunch of Cressel, pak choy is $12.50 a bundle, $11.50 now for potato. Some places is $12 for tomato, callaloo bush $10.50 in tongue, and carrot selling now $12 a pound. So if you brave to still go in the market, I could tell you that you only take in basket.
So this kind of set up everything that happened in terms of the economic stress that people had to deal with in the 80s, okay? Now, after this, of course, you know, we had new people. I have about a couple more slides, okay? The bassman from hell, of course, all right? Made his debut in the 70s when we were in presentation. I remember going on the promenade in San Fernando one lunchtime, and there were people like from the promenade right down to almost where the train is, packed with people just come out to hear Shadow. Yes, and of course we all know what he did that year. Okay, yeah, he said he basically changed the bass line.
Planning to forget Calypso and go and plant peas in Tobago, but I am afraid I can't make the grade, cause every night I lie down in my bed, I hearing a bassman in my head.
Yeah.
Who remember Lively performing on the stage? In the auditorium.
Ask Ducky.
I know Lively, but I can't recall him singing this on the stage. But anyway. Right? Anyways, last slide. I specifically wanted to end with the Caribbean man, okay, because very few Calypsonians really, you know, there's the question of Caribbean unity, pretty much like Leroy Cali. Okay, I think, you know, Eric Williams had an issue with him saying that, you know, how come politicians cannot unite people like the Rastas in Jamaica, you know, in this Calypso? Yeah, all right, as you know.
You try with a federation, the whole thing end in confusion. CARICOM and then CARIFTA, but somehow a spelling disaster. Mr. West Indian politician, I mean you went to a big institution, and how come you can't unite 7 million? When a West Indian unity, I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me, them is one race, the Caribbean man, from the same place, the Caribbean man, that make the same trip, the Caribbean man, on the same ship, the Caribbean man. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region, for we woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
So in those 20 years, you know, we made the full circle, right? Because the federation was basically replaced in the end by CARICOM. Yes, you know, and just because we never really, you know, stopped wanting regional integration, you know, and of course, you know, the CARICOM Treaty was signed in 73. Okay, right now we have 20 countries, right, from the initial 10. Okay, 15 member states and 5 associate members. I'm not too sure if Haiti is an associate member, given that it is not English speaking. Right, but that's it's a full member.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because when I was dealing with them in 2000 and 2002, they were an associate member. So
Okay,
anyway,
Roger,
yeah.
I know that you could ramble on for another hour.
Yeah, I'm stopping now because the last slide.
No. I am not saying to stop. I'm saying that this is so good that we have to continue. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to take the floor for about 2 minutes, just to talk a little bit about us being grateful as human beings for living in Trinidad in the 60s and the 70s, the period that you've covered. We were lucky. We were not just lucky to go to the best school. We went to the best school at a time when education was viewed as a vehicle for social mobility. We were in the country to experience an oil boom. And I would argue with anyone before or after that we had the best Calypsonians Trinidad has ever seen at the peak of their lives. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Peter.
I just wanted to say, Roger, this was a fantastic presentation. Absolutely fantastic. I bow to you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Especially how you related current events at the time with the Calypso. Very well done.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. So I couldn't have said it any better. So I appreciate all the time that you put into this, and this is just, So here's the deal. I have some work to do, and I was like, oh man, do I really need to go on tonight? And something just kept on telling me, you better go. And I'm so happy that I came. So thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Everyone.
And if I can add a little more to the two of them, which I totally agree, and knowing the amount of work that it takes to put together these presentations, I would like to suggest that you continue with the 80s and the 90s at your time that is convenient. But more importantly, the memories that this brought back to me today and the association I could have with all this, it's just fantastic, Roger. It is definitely fantastic. I couldn't, just bring it back that music. Yeah, just bring it back that music, man.
Yeah.
DP, also what you did that was helpful to me was to say, here is what was also happening in other places around the Caribbean and in the world while these things were happening in Trinidad. It put a context to understand better. So thank you.
And if you notice,
one question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Who coined it? By Calypso's Our Stories Are Told. It was in somebody's song or whatever it is. It said by Calypso's Our Stories Are Told. And that's what you
David
did.
Rudder?
I don't know, might be, but that is what you just did. Excellent.
Thank you.
Now, Roger De Pisa, on one of your slides, there is that quote.
Yeah.
We just
like in the third or fourth slide,
yeah.
And so many things in my mind. Yeah.
And man, that was so much memories came back. I remember when my dad used to play with Wakan. He used to play with Guinness Cavaliers mass band. I remember the name of the band at that year, A Spectrum of Butterflies. Right? And in those days the parade used to be strict, right? If you're not in masquerade, you're not getting into it. But one of the moments I remember as a young guy, my dad was with his costume, and you get a chance with a jersey, man, Guinness Cavaliers, and he pull you in, and just to walk with him, I'm telling you, it's like how we went down memory lane with Busy Corner. I'm telling you, DP, you did a great job, man. You did a great job. Yeah.
And he dressed the part too.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's welcome William. You know, William.
You missed the whole thing, William.
You
All right.
recording.
Half your life done now.
Hey guys, I gotta run, but let me just switch into one topic just for a brief minute because Peter Holder had asked this question last week about whether booster shots are coming. I told you guys booster shots were coming, and they announced tonight that booster shots are probably gonna be here very soon, probably that started as early as next month. So
is that for all of them or just for
no, that's just for the immunocompromised people.
Yeah.
Some there's an expert on CNN today who was suggesting that healthcare workers should be in that group too. So, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right, I gotta go. See you guys. Thank you again.
Awesome.
Bye.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
Thank you for a brilliant presentation. This was
You're
wonderful.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, we all need a break from what's going on right now in healthcare.
Oh yeah.
To listen to this. And just as a sidebar, Michael, this is for you. While this presentation was going on, my cryptocurrency account went up by 3.5%.
Oh, wonderful.
We will look forward, Michael, to that bigger presentation where we could discuss all the ins and outs of crypto. Okay? Yeah, because money is there to be made. Yeah. 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 So anyone else? Duffy, Radford, Peter, anyone else has anything?
I'm good. No, just great presentation. You know, I pick up Calypso mostly by osmosis. I'm not a fan as a lot. I'm learning from a lot of you guys. You guys are more fans than I'm a fan of Steel Pan, but not so much of Calypso. but it's great. I'm learning a lot from your presentations. It's excellent.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in Trinidad at that particular time. But I'm familiar with all the music. I kept up with the music. I kept up with what's happening in Trinidad. But my experience is null and void. I wasn't there in that sense.
Very
yeah, for those who didn't know, Radford has been in Canada since 1967.
1968. I came to Canada in 1968.
Okay.
That's terrible.
he's lived through all those winters, you know.
Yeah.
And he's still going strong.
And maybe I'll talk about it one of these days.
That would be a good topic. That would be a good topic where you can compare life in the early 60s, 70s in Canada and how it has changed. Like, for example, the evolution of Brampton, for example, that I have noticed over the years, you know.
Maybe.
Brampton has changed significantly. It's now called Bangladesh.
Yeah. and Singdale, where Springdale is now, Singdale.
But this is what happens in Toronto, in Ontario, that you tend to move into as an immigrant, you tend to come into an area where your people are. So for example, when I came to Canada in 1968, there was a certain part of Toronto where Blacks from the Caribbean went to. Similarly, when they had the Iranian conflict, when the Shah was deposed, the Iranians moved into a certain area near Don Mills. Sri Lankans moved to a certain area and so on. So you got these different communities together. You know, the Somalians did exactly the same thing. The Chinese did exactly the same thing. So you have little China and you have big China. You know, you get all these different groups. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that as your economic situation increases, people tend to move away from those communities.
And the children too. You know?
And the children, especially the children. You see it with the Jewish community. They settled in a certain area in Toronto, and now they're moving out just into the greater Toronto area.
Yeah, the problem with Toronto is the house prices, and people are moving further and further out of Toronto, specifically because as a young person, you can't pay $800,000 per house. Canadian, you know.
Where you gonna
and
get?
You're just starting up, you know.
For a condo, not even a house.
Yeah,
you know.
The average price for a condo is 700,000.
That is why all Peter's children waiting for him to pass, because then the house is there.
Either that or they invested in cryptocurrency and then they could do their stuff.
You know, right? And William have a beautiful home there in Vancouver, you know what I'm saying?
The taxes are very high. For example, my tax for this year, think about it, 6,000 Canadian dollars. Put that in Trinidad, that's more than 30,000 TT dollars. My sister in Trinidad is living in a home that was recently rebuilt, nice home, and her taxes is 38 TT a year, property tax. Think about that. And then yet people are complaining about, oh gosh, don't raise the property tax in Trinidad now. You gotta raise it from $38 to 750 TT. And she's upset big time.
The thing is, you get value for your money.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure your water is constant flow. It's pretty clean. Electricity is pretty good. You know, so the roads that you are driving on, you know, maybe a little bit less hot.
And when you call 911, either the cops or the ambulance arrive quickly.
Same day.
So with the cops and ambulance here, there's a 2-minute window. If there's a domestic dispute, the cops, the fire brigade, and the ambulance will be here in about 2-3 minutes.
Yeah,
that's the way it works.
Yeah.
So if you ever had an attack, you just call and say you have a domestic fight here and somebody.
They send the paramedics quickly.
Yes.
You know?
So Roger, before you close off, let me comment because Dennis will leave on next week, right? And Roger not here. Just a comment on what we have for next week. Or are you ready for that yet?
No. Go ahead.
So next week, Roger is going to be hosting the book talk, and we do have the author out of the doubles. The author is going to be present, and be prepared to ask questions. For those of you who have not read the book, we're going to share a link to the website where it has all the photos, and the author has actually suggested that we share that link. And we'll just take it from there. It's Out of the Doubles, the history of the evolution of doubles as a street food in Trinidad. But more importantly, the story is paralleled with the life and trials and tribulations and success of that family. So I think it's going to be a great read and a good opportunity. And he has agreed, the guy is retired, Badru Dean. He is retired now and he's willing to stay on as long as we'd like, but we told him that the time slot we like him from is from 8 to 9. He's out in Florida, so I'm talking East Coast time. So be prepared for that, and that's it, you know.
And that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting because recently I hosted a couple of young ladies from Toronto coming out west to experience Western living. And I was explaining to them about doubles. They're from Trinidad. Some of them are from Trinidad. And they didn't realize there was something called singles. You can go and ask for singles. They always
call it
back. Them,
whatever.
No idea what a single. They don't understand why it's called a doubles.
And you know we are triples, right, Winston? You know we are triples. I used to get a triple.
Yeah, I don't know. I can never afford a triple, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. Real in Presentation College, you get triples. That same guy who we in there. When you know you're good enough, you hit your extra bar on top there. That triples.
Okay. Well, anyways, gentlemen.
Next week I won't be here, so I'll be on the road and I'll be traveling, but I'll try to catch the recording. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to see the recording of this session again, Roger. So I'm not sure how soon you're going to be posting it, but I look forward.
Well, it usually comes out in a half an hour, so it's just uploading it on the Google document, right?
Great to see you guys again.
Okay, everyone, it has been a pleasure. It was a blast going down this
Very
road.
good. Fantastic, man.
And it
Fantastic.
was nice
Thanks,
seeing Dave again and Wayne and William. I see everybody else every week. So, guys, have a great week, rest of the week.
Yes.
And
All right.
Radford, we'll talk.
Good
Right.
Good night,
Okay,
everyone.
later.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. See you guys.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, everybody.
We got